Well, hi there. This is Caleb Jones, and this is the Sovereign CEO Podcast. Audio only edition because I am currently moving right now and I am kind of between homes. So you will only get, if you're watching this on YouTube, this will only be my voice. We will go back to video next week. This is the best I can do. And if you don't like that, then I don't give a shit. I have finally we have finally settled in a house here in Dubai. My wife and I found a nice house. We will do a full YouTube walkthrough of the house once we get settled. And it's been a little chaotic because we were living out of 2 different apartments and boxes and suitcases for the past 6 weeks, which has not been very fun. But we finally moved into our new house. And when you move out of the country and you move into a new house, it's not like you move into a house and all your stuff is there. You move into a new house and it's empty. And here in Dubai, this is part of the Dubai culture, which I wasn't aware of. Here in Dubai, for some strange reason, all of the appliances stay with you. So when you buy a new house or move into an apartment, generally speaking, especially if the house or apartment is new, you are expected to buy the stove and the refrigerator and the dishwasher and the washer and the dryer. And then when you leave, you have a guy disconnect it all and you take it with you to your next place. And I didn't know that. So when we moved into our house, it was literally empty. No appliances, no furniture, no nothing. So the past few weeks, Pink Firefly has been shopping for new furniture and we've been buying new furniture. And that's been a big fucking nightmare because, of course, shopping for furniture is my favorite fucking thing to do. Isn't that great? Yeah, it's great. Fortunately, most of that time has been hers, but we have separate finances in our marriage. So some of the furniture I'm paying for and some of the furniture she's paying for. So I had to give the okay on the furniture that I was paying for. But anyway, so I have one more thing to do tomorrow. I'm moving my stuff out of my temporary apartment here in Dubai in the marina, and I'm moving it out to our house in the suburbs. That'll be tomorrow morning. And then once I get settled there, I'll have a new office, a new YouTube studio, all kinds of new stuff. And I will be very thankful. This part of my life, this transitional aspect of my life, which has been 2 months now, will be over. Finally, I can't wait. What a nightmare. Jesus Christ. I would still do it, still worth doing it. It's still worth escaping the collapsing West. It's still worth moving to a place like Dubai that has 0 taxes. So I would do it again, but I'm glad I don't have to do it again. It's a lot easier to move when you are alone. Most of you guys are alone. When you are not with a live-in girlfriend or wife, it's a lot easier to move out of the country. So I advise you to do that before you settle down, maybe. Even though I purposely found an OLTR wife, a wife, I should say, because this is Sovereign CEO. I purposely found a wife before I moved for my own personal reasons. But anyway, I'm going to talk about that on another podcast sometime. Let's get to the topic of this podcast, shall we? And that is international travel tips. This is just a smattering of tips. I travel internationally all the time. I just got back to the United States from Scottsdale, Arizona. I was there for a few days doing a few things. And I realized, I actually did a Scottsdale mastermind. And a few of the guys there said, if you could just publish more content on just how to travel internationally, because most of us in your audience haven't really traveled internationally yet. So it'd be kind of helpful to talk about that. I'm like, good point. And as I've talked about many times, certainly my business content, we tend to value our own knowledge. So if you're really good at a particular skill, you tend to think that everybody has that skill. And you tend to think that skill is invaluable. That's why all these guys say, but I have nothing of value. I don't know anything. I have no marketable skills. Yeah, you do. You totally do. You have skills that you think are not valuable, but they are. And so I have a skill, international travel. I'm an international travel maniac. And so in this podcast, I'll give you a bunch of travel tips. These are just random smatterings. There's no rhyme or reason in any of these things, no structure. I'm just going to give you one after the next. And hopefully they will help you navigate the world, certainly in a post-cerveza sickness world, because that's certainly a factor too. Number one, top of the list, is that you need to pack light. I have several articles at my blog at calebjones.com/blog on how I travel. I should probably update some of those with some photographs. What I recommend you do is to not use a bag that you hold or drag. I recommend use a backpack. And I switched to backpacks about 1.5 years ago. Before that, I just had a little wheeled bag, which is perfectly fine. Backpacks are way better, especially if you have a good backpack. So I've traveled with normal hiker type backpacks, and I've traveled with real traveler backpacks. I strongly recommend the Traveler backpack. There are several good brands. The brand I strongly recommend, and I should set up an affiliate program with these guys. This is not, I get no money for referring this, but that is the Tortuga backpack. You could just Google tortuga.com or look that up. It's a little expensive, $200, $300, $400. But it is a backpack specifically made for travelers, and it's amazing. I did a lot of research before I got this backpack. It is amazing. It packs like a suitcase, and it's rectangular and square like a suitcase, which is fantastic because most backpacks have really weird shapes, and they're a pain in the ass to pack. They're a pain in the ass to unpack, to rummage around in. They don't have enough pockets and things like that. This thing is awesome in terms of how it's shaped, number one. Number two, even better, it is balanced in a way, the engineering behind this thing is amazing. It is balanced in a way where you can't feel like anything's on your back, even though the backpack is super heavy. So literally, I'll pick it up and I go, oh, this is heavy. Put it on, strap it on, there's some strap stuff. And then as I walk around, it feels like there's nothing on my back. Amazing. The only pressure you feel is right above your ass. So your lower back, you feel like it's gently pushing against that. That's it. It's not pulling on your shoulders. It's not pulling on your back. It feels like there's nothing on your back, even if you pack that thing to the max, which I always do. So I would forget using any bags. I would forget any roller bags. I would strictly use a backpack. And if you're a real traveler and you're devoted to this lifestyle, or you'll be traveling a lot for whatever reason, if you don't want to, even if you don't like traveling, I strongly recommend a traveler backpack like the Tortuga backpack. And there are other competing brands, but that's just my favorite. It will transform your entire travel experience. Also, wearing a backpack is great because your hands are free. And, there's numbers of times you got to, put your bag down or stop and let go of your bag, use your hands and grab your bag again. It's a pain in the butt. Even if your bag is small and has the wheels, navigating through little stores to the airport and sidewalks and shit like that is a pain in the ass. Stairs, navigating stairs when you have a little little thingy when you're pulling a thing behind you, even if it's small and light, you got to pull it up the stairs or leap it up the stairs, or you got to, compress the handle and take the normal handle and walk it up the stairs. You have none of those problems when you're wearing a backpack. None. The only weird thing about a backpack is getting in and out of taxis. You have to, pull it off your back and shove it in the taxi, I guess, but who cares? Other than that, it's not a big deal. And maybe if your backpack is really big, maybe you might bump people when you turn around. I try to be careful about that. But I would be lying if I said that hasn't happened once or twice, where I smack some old lady in the head. Just kidding. Where I'll turn or someone will bump into my backpack because it sticks out so far. But that's very rare. I travel all over the place. I think that's happened once or twice. So strongly recommend a backpack, traveler backpack if you can do it. Next thing, and I've mentioned this, ideally you should have SIM cards all ready to go in the countries you regularly visit. Now, if you have certain phone plans like the T-Mobile International plan, which can work all over the world, although it can be dicey in certain countries, which I don't like, I prefer to use SIM cards. And so I've done some YouTube videos on this. I have one of my phones is a dual SIM phone. So it has my Dubai SIM card in there. And whenever I go to Paraguay or Mexico, Armenia, any one of my flags, I just drop the other card in there, the SIM card in there. And as soon as I land, I have full internet. I have a phone number if I need it. I never do. But the main thing is I have full internet no matter where I go. And I know for a fact it works. And it's a nice, strong signal. It's not this T-Mobile bullshit because it's a native SIM card of that country. So what I have done is every one of my flag countries that I regularly visit, Panama, Armenia, Paraguay, Mexico, of course, the United States, I have not one, but several SIM cards because they're cheap. In most of these countries, you can buy a SIM card for $3, $4, $5 US. I have them all lined up, ready to go. So anytime I go to that country, I'll be doing this when I head back to Paraguay shortly. I'll have a brand new, ready to rock, never used, fresh SIM card, drop that bad boy in my phone, go to the airport, and as soon as I land in Paraguay, I'm good to go. Because sometimes SIM cards can be hard to find. In most countries, or in many countries, you can get one at the airport. But in some countries, like emerging markets like Paraguay, getting a SIM card is kind of a pain in the butt. And you have to sit down and fill out a bunch of forms and wait forever at the phone company. And when I did that, I said, you know what? While I'm here, I better get 4 of them. So I went and got 4 or 5 of them. Did the same thing in Mexico at one point. So I would recommend you do that. With all your flag countries or countries you'll be visiting more than once, you should just have a nice little box of SIM cards ready to go. And every time you travel, that will save you so much hassle and so much headache, and also save you a lot of emotional energy trying to figure out how to get internet when you land in whatever country. Now, obviously, this may not be an option if this is the first time you have visited that country. So first time you visited that country, just do your best to find a SIM card at the airport. And going forward, if you're going to revisit that country, get multiple SIM cards. Next tip, and this is something I've seen guys screw up with. In a post-cerveza sickness world, you must do your thorough research on what paperwork you will need to present at the airport to get into that country. Now, if it is a jab certificate or jab passport, then obviously you need that. If it is a negative PCR test, then you need to have that ready, and you need to know for that country how many hours in advance. Some countries it's 24 hours, some it's 48, some it's 72. You need to know this because I've seen people get burned where they present the negative cerveza sickness test. And you know why I'm calling it cerveza sickness. I have to call it that, sorry. When you present that test and they say, sorry, this is too old. We need one dated within 48 hours. This was 3 days ago or 4 days ago. I've seen that happen at airports. A big problem. You need to know this stuff. At one point, going to Paraguay, they required not only a negative PCR test, but they also required proof of international health insurance. And if I didn't have that ready to go, ready to show them at the airport, I would have been in big trouble. And again, I've seen this. I've seen this with you guys where you didn't bring the proper documentation because you didn't do your research. And I've seen it live at the airport where people can't get in because they don't have the paperwork or they have the incorrect paperwork. Some countries, again, post-cerveza, have you fill out stupid things on an app on your phone. Now, which means you need to have internet access on your phone in the layover country where you're visiting. So I'll keep using Paraguay as an example. Let's say you're going to Paraguay. Usually you'll have a stopover in Panama City, which means you need internet in Panama City. So you better hope that Wi-Fi works and get that working before you fuck around with your phone. Ideally, do that before you leave for Panama City where you have nice, strong internet. But my point is, do the research on every country you're visiting to know what the entry requirements are for that country. Prior to 2020, you could just grab your passport and go anywhere in the world. Those days are over, and they're probably permanently over as we continue to enter into this dark age. We're going to need papers and papers and papers and papers like fucking Nazi Germany all over again. Next travel tip. I have mentioned this before on some of my YouTube videos. When you are on a long flight going east or west, where you're crossing many time zones. If you're just crossing 2 or 3 or 4 time zones, then don't worry about it. You don't have to do this. But if you're crossing, 8 time zones, in my case, I cross 12 time zones when I go from the West Coast of the United States or Central America or South America to Dubai. I have to do this. Certainly if you make a transatlantic flight from Europe to USA or Europe to Australia, what have you, you need to do this. As soon as you get on the plane, you convert your entire behavioral model to the target time zone. What do I mean? Well, I just did this 2 days ago when I flew back from the USA to Dubai. As soon as I got on the plane in Seattle, Washington, so I had to go from Phoenix, Arizona to Seattle, and then from Seattle to direct flight to Dubai. As soon as I got on the plane, that Emirates flight in Seattle, I set all my phones and my laptop time to Dubai time. And I behaved exactly the way that time specified. So the plane took off at around 5 p.m. Seattle time. It was somewhere around 5 a.m. Dubai time. So once the plane was in the air and everything was stable and you're able to take your seatbelt off and all that stuff, what did I do? Well, everyone was sitting there talking and playing games and looking out in the window into the sunlight, which is stupid. What I did was I laid out. I always make sure I get a 2 or 3 or 4 seater that no one sits in so I can lay down, or I'll pay for business class. Depends on the scenario. This time I didn't have to do that. I made special arrangements. Maybe I'll talk about that next. I immediately put in my earplugs, put over my eye cover. I have really good ones. Got the blankets, laid down, closed my eyes, and went to sleep. Or at least I tried my best to go to sleep. And I did sleep, actually. I slept a few hours. But even if I had not slept, I still would have sat there in the darkness and relaxed. Because what would I normally be doing at 5 a.m.? Would I be staring out the window looking into the sunlight? Fuck no, that's the opposite what you want to do. I would be asleep. So you want to duplicate that. So then in Dubai, I normally wake up later in the morning, 9 or 10 a.m. So as soon as it got to 9, 10 a.m. on my clocks, then I woke up. And of course, by then everyone does the opposite. The plane was all dark and most of the plane people are asleep, which is stupid. You're just going to make your jet lag worse. I turned on my laptop. I made sure that on all my devices, the night screen, the night mode was off. So I wanted to see that full blue UV light in my eyes to duplicate sunlight as best as I could. One guy, bless his heart, left his window cracked a little bit, so there's real sunlight. So I kept looking at that to train my eyes to say, okay, it is now daytime. And I stayed up and I was still sleepy. I wanted to sleep. But I stayed up. I forced myself to stay up, and I did that for the rest of the flight. And as soon as I arrived in Dubai around 5, 6 p.m. Dubai time, I was sleepy. And so when I got home, cuddled with my sweet little wife, and I forced myself to stay up late as I normally stay up, because I tend to stay up later in Dubai because of my time zone difference with the North America. And I was ready to go to sleep. I could have easily gone to sleep at 7, 8 o'clock p.m., but that's not normally what I do. So I forced myself to stay up a little later, and then I went to bed, and I woke up this morning. That was literally yesterday, and I feel fine. I have a little jet lag, but I can barely feel it. Everyone else that flight is all fucked up for 3 days. And when I didn't do these things, I was screwed up for 3 days. Jet lag takes 3 days to get rid of because people don't do what I'm saying. So just start adopting that model. Do whatever you would normally do on the plane, even if it feels dumb. And this is very important, everyone on the plane is doing the opposite, because that happens regularly on most flights. Certainly flights to places like Asia, long flights, when you fly from like North America to Asia, or North America to the Middle East like Dubai, and certain places to Europe and things like that. Everyone on the plane will be doing the opposite. They'll be doing whatever they feel like. So when they get on the plane, everyone will be, talking and laughing and joking and on their computers and staring out the window. Terrible idea. And then when they should be awake, everyone will be sleeping. Don't do that. Do whatever the clocks tell you to do. Very, very, very important. Now, let me talk about what I just said. I wasn't planning on doing this, but I'll throw this in here. What I like to do is whenever I reserve a flight, my tickets, what I like to do whenever I check in for an international flight, I do this every time, is I don't pay attention to the seats that I get because I'm probably going to change them. So I don't give a shit about that. When I'm actually checking in at the airport, not online, not with my app, when I'm actually at the airport checking in for reals, when they check my passport and my PCR test and all that bullshit, I will always ask, how full is the flight? Because they can check right there. Now, usually they'll say, oh, it's very full. Oh, it's like 95% full. Okay, fine. But often they will say things like, oh, let's see, it's about 40% full, or it's like 60% full. If it's some low number, and often it is, depends on what kind of flights you're flying, depends what you're doing, then I will say, great, can you put me in? And I will give them a designated part of the plane where I know I can lay down. And so what I suggest you do, I kind of do this, I don't need to do this anymore because I know this stuff by heart. You can go to a website that's really useful called seatguru.com, and you can plug in the flight number you're actually taking, and it shows you a layout of the exact plane that you'll be on. And so what you can do is you can look at the map and figure out a place, usually toward the back of the plane, where you can have 2 or 3, or if you're lucky, if it's a large plane, 4 seats to yourself. So at least on the long flight, you can lay down, or if you have 2 seats, at least you could kind of lay down and stick your legs out. It's awesome. So whenever they say the plane's not very full, like 40% full, 30% full, 60% full, I will say, great. Could you do me a favor? Could you move me to the back of the plane in the center aisle where there's a center row of 4 where no one is sitting? And usually they can pull it off. Now, if the plane is smaller, you'd say, could you put me in the, on the left-hand side where there's 3 together where no one is sitting? And if I have to be in the far back of the plane, that is fine with me. And have them move you. They'll do it right there. There's no fee for that. I do that every time. It's almost as good as having a first class or business class ticket when you do that for free. It's awesome. And of course, if they say, sorry, the flight is full, it's 96% full, you're probably fucked. Now, you can still ask. You can still ask. You can say, hey, is there like a 4 or a 3 where no one's sitting toward the back of the plane? Sometimes you get lucky. I got lucky. That's what I did yesterday. I actually asked the guy, I was late for the flight because my connecting flight was late, wasn't my fault. So I had to run to the Dubai flight. And when I got on the plane, the first thing I did is I asked for, because I knew that it was a full flight, I asked for a business class upgrade because you can buy seats sometimes right on the plane. And it was pretty expensive, so I said no. But the guy said, hey, you know what? I can put you in a 4. I said, dude, I love you. Put me in a 4. And that's how I was able to sleep on the flight and not have jet lag when I arrived. Pretty awesome. Next, international travel tip, and this is a general travel tip, and I'm surprised that people don't do this. To me, this is kind of obvious, but I'm surprised that people don't do this, especially if it's a long, long flight where you're not going to work 14 hours. So what I normally do on flights is I work. Big shock. I pull up my laptop and I get a lot of work done. Even if I have to pay for internet for the plane, I will probably do that to get my work done because I need to get my work done. I'm a workaholic and I have big goals and I like to work and I have a strong mission that's very important to me, so I work. But On a 14-hour fucking flight, am I be working straight 14 hours? No. Usually toward the end of the flight, I'm so sleepy, I probably can't focus on work anyway. And if I can't sleep, I'll have to keep myself awake somehow without having to work. So you want to watch something on your laptop that probably isn't available on the flight. Most international planes don't have a way of watching movies. And the ones that do usually have stupid movies. And because we have entered into a collapsing dark age, a cultural dark age, as I've talked about my blogs, Hollywood doesn't know how to make good movies anymore. They stopped making good movies around 2018 or so. So what you should do is, every time you know you're going on a long flight, you should take the time and effort to copy whatever movies you have or have access to. Don't break the law, please. You know what I'm talking about. But whatever you need to do, if you have DVDs you could rip or digital copies you own or what have you, copy them to your laptop and get several hours of something interesting to watch on your laptop that you're looking forward to watch, so that you have something to do when you're on this long flight and movies are either not available or it's the typical stupid movies you don't want to watch. Movies, TV shows, what have you, have something to watch on your laptop that doesn't require an internet connection. I do this every time I fly, even if, like yesterday was an example of this, even if I don't bother to watch anything on the flight. I want it at least there if I need it, because you're going to want to watch it. Very important. And in the place of something to watch on your laptop, you could have something like an audiobook, but again, make sure it's downloaded to your local device because you won't have an internet connection, or a Kindle book or something to pass the time when you're very sleepy and nothing else is available. Do not rely on the plane having movies to watch. That is very, very stupid. Sometimes they do, and most Western world type flights, usually they do. But sometimes they don't, and certainly if you're going to places like Southeast Asia or South America, they won't. They will not have anything to watch. You're on your own. So have that. Last thing I'm going to throw in there, and again, this is something that to me is obvious, but not enough people know this. For anywhere from 70 to 120 bucks, you can buy a charging brick. And this is a brick where you charge it up, and then you can actually plug your laptop, your actually wall socket that normally goes to the wall with your laptop, into this brick. And it'll charge your entire laptop, and the good ones can charge your laptop twice. So I will use a brick whenever I go to South America, because there is nowhere to charge my laptop on an 8, 9 hour flight, 10-hour flight going from North America to South America. They don't have plugs for laptops. They might have a plug for your phone, and maybe that thing won't even work. So, so when you're going on a flight where you know, or the odds are good, you don't have anything to plug into with your laptop, buy a charging brick and bring it with you. It is a lifesaver. It has saved my ass many times. Now, I'm a little spoiled. I live in Dubai, and Dubai, we have the Emirates airline, which was literally one of the best airlines in the world. All of their planes have sockets for laptops, but that's the only time. If I do South America stuff, some Asian stuff, I have to bring my brick with me. So do that. It is a very worthwhile investment if you're traveling at least a few times a year. So that's it for the moment for international travel tips. If you have other tips that have helped you, certainly please leave a comment on this and let other people know. And I will see you again very shortly. Have fun. Bye.